right. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I am Stephen Boudinger at Chocolatey Software, and normally today we would be doing a product spotlight live stream. Those are what we usually do on this particular Thursday, but we thought we'd mix things up a little bit today. So what we're going to do is do some coding, right? We're going to live stream some coding for y'all, and we're going to look at creating a chocolatey package. So I'm joined by Josh King, and I'm going to bring him on to say hi. Josh, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yep. So I'm Josh King. I'm an infrastructure operations engineer here at Chocolatey, and looking forward to getting into this.
Awesome. So normally we run 2 live streams every month. The first and a third Thursday. Typically this first one is as I mentioned, our product spotlight live stream, and then on the third Thursday, we are trying out a new live stream called Unpacking Software, and on that stream, that's where we talk about news, we chat about things that are going on in the technology space, we share our opinions about those things, and then we turn that into a podcast after we're done, right? So you can catch us live if, on that third Thursday, or if you care to, you can catch us on that podcast wherever listening to those things. If you want to be notified about all of the chocolatey content that we've got going on, you can go to our website, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it, Mastodon, Facebook. We're in all the places, right? So if you go to chocolatey.org and go to the bottom of our homepage, you'll be able to see that and connect with us there. And then what we've got a really quick survey that we want to share with everybody, as well for these live streams. We'd really want to hear from you guys what you would like to see, whether that's more of these live coding events or whatever it is. So if you don't mind, and we just pop that link up on the screen there. Take that survey for us. It's real quick. It'll take you like 10 seconds. And that's really going to help us shape these live streams moving forward. So I think that's all I wanted to get through here before we get started. So Josh, you want to create a chocolatey package? Let's show how actually easy it is.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the first thing we should probably talk about is what a package actually is. So at the end of the day, a package is, as it sounds, sort of a container. It contains stuff from that could be anything from a installer that installs some software, but at the end of the day, inside there is a PowerShell script. So effectively, your package can be anything. It can be registry edits you want to make. It can be fonts you want to deploy. It can literally be anything. But most of the time, when people hear package, they think software. So today, I've found some software that I want to package. And it's not currently available on the community repository. So my plan is we'll create a package for the software, and then we will make it available to the wider community via the Chocolatey community repository. And an extension of that is to set a baseline. Chocolatey itself is a package manager, so then Chocolatey can do it manages your packages for you. So, and that includes install, uninstall, and upgrade of packages. And yeah, I don't think I've missed anything there, Stevie. Unless you want to add anything in there.
No, sounds good.
Um, so the software I want to package today is called Elk Native. It's a lightweight Mastodon client. So Stevie mentioned we're on all the social medias, and one of those being Mastodon. This is a nice client that you can install on your machine. It's nice and fast. It is an early development, but yeah, I want to be able to install it easier. Um, I've already done some due diligence and double checked that it's not on the community repository, but that sort of is the first step if your end goal is to contribute back to the community. So I want to quickly sort of have a look at the community repository and just show you how you can double check that a package doesn't already exist up there. So if we go to the Chocolatey community website, which is community.chocolatey.org, and we'll go find packages. I'll do a search for elk. Well, this is literally the first time I've been here. Do a search for elk, and we find 8 packages, but those have those aren't the elk native software or a package for that software. These will have either elk somewhere in the description, or it'll be in a tag, or it'll be part of the name. So like that one there. This doesn't necessarily mean that there's 100% chance of it not being there. So I always like to go and double check that if I explicitly try and go to a URL for that package, that it doesn't already exist, because the community repository's been around for years. Somebody could have had an attempt at it a while back and it never got approved, but now it's just sitting there. But if somebody else has already claimed a package, you wouldn't be able to just automatically push your own copy of it. So first things first, well, now that I've decided I definitely want to go and package elk, I want to check out the installer. So the elk project releases their software on GitHub. And so I'll have a look at the latest release, and I can see that they do a MSI for Windows. And that's just a specific type of installer. You'll also see .exes and some other file extensions creeping in these days as well. Yes, please. I do want to download it. So I have. So I have my installer. As I said, it's an MSI file. And the goal of a package when you're packaging software is to basically install and uninstall the software silently. So what you don't want to happen is if you're running Chocolatey to install a package, so you've typed choco install elk-native, which will be what we do to install this one. What you don't want is the installer popping up and then having to click next, and do that, because that's the old way. That's the GUI way of doing it. So you want to be able to install this software silently. And there are known silent switches for a bunch of installers, and we're going to see those in a moment, because we happen to have documented them for you. And if you are starting from scratch and sorry, I just saw a message flash up about searching on the community repository. Okay, let's start making a package. So I'm just creating a temporary repository for me to work inside of. And the first thing I'm going to do is use a chocolatey command called choco new, which is going to scaffold out for me a package using quite a handy template, which has a lot of getting started information in there. So I say choco new, and I'm going to give it the name of the package that I'm creating. So this package is called Elk Native with a dash in there. I could call this package just Elk, but there is Elk Native is the native install version of the software. It is possible that someone might want to come along and create a package for the web version of Elk for hosting a web instance of Elk themselves. So I'm going to leave that namespace free in case someone does want to do that. So I'm going with Elk Native for my package ID. And the package ID just uniquely identifies the package. So we can see there that it generated a lot of files for us. And we can go and have a look at what it created. So what it's done is it's, well, as I said, it's templated out or created a scaffold for a new package for us. The key files in here that are needed for the key file that's needed for any package is this new spec file that contains metadata about the package itself, if its name, the version number, description of it, tags which can help with finding it on whatever repository you host it on, and then any dependencies it needs. So say if your software needs a specific .NET version installed, you can specify that in the new spec. And then your package manager, Chocolatey in this case, will install that dependency before installing this software to make sure everything works. In the tools directory, it's created a install script, an uninstall script, and a before modify script. So really quickly, the install script is what runs when you either install your software, well, as it is here, and with most installers, the install script runs your installer, and whatever else needs to happen to get the software or the guts of your package installed. It'll also execute when you update your package. The uninstall, as you might expect, contains all the logic to uninstall your software, or reverse out whatever changes your package made. And before modify is executed before any updates happen or before you uninstall. So you might need to make sure that processes aren't running, that sort of thing. Sometimes you won't, sometimes you won't need an uninstall script because Chocolatey can automatically uninstall a lot of software, and we'll validate that as part of what we're about to do. And we'll very quickly, when you are dealing with an installer, you can either download the installer from the internet when you're installing your package, or if you've got distribution rights for it, you can embed the installer inside your package as well. And then that ensures that the installer is always available for your package whenever you're installing it. If you do that and you're submitting it to the Chocolatey community repository, you need to include the license that then tells people that you've got the rights to include the installer. And also verification. That just helps with the moderation process so that, and for consumers of the package to validate that the installer that you've included in your package matches what you would get from the software vendor, so that people can validate that nothing funky is happening with your package. And the final, Oh, yes.
We've got a question
Yes.
in the chat, and I'm going to pop it up on the screen here. And we should touch on this really, really briefly because I think it's really, really important. So, Paul's asking, what are distribution rights and how would I find that out?
So, distribution rights are part of the license that apply to software, and they generally say, um, at a very high level, you're allowed to take the software and redistribute it as long as these conditions are met, or you can't do that. Um, as far as where you would look, generally in GitHub, if everything's lined up, you will see the license on the um, right hand side of the screen under the About, or it's in this license file here. And you um, would either read this, or what GitHub does, which is nice, is put the permissions here. So distribution is one of the permissions that you get under this specific license.
Right.
Not
So it
sure if
looks
there's
like
any.
if it's a GitHub thing, it's relatively easy to find the
Yeah,
distribution rights thing, right? If it's not coming from GitHub, you might have to consult whatever that
yeah.
vendor website is
You might
to
need to look for their
see.
terms of service or their
Yeah.
EULA, or hopefully they've got a software license like this, which follows one of the
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
MITs or the
Gotcha.
Apache or something.
Awesome.
But just because you do have distribution permission to distribute the software doesn't mean you have to. So in this case,
Right.
I am still going to download it rather than embedding it.
Right. And follow up question that just came in: if you can't find the license, can I still distribute it?
I would err on very much no.
Yes, I would very much say no.
Yes. And if I sort of, if soft, especially on GitHub, if it doesn't have a license, I probably wouldn't touch it anyway, but that's just my
Right.
stance. So,
Yes.
Okay. So there's one more file that I want to point out from that template, which is this to-do text, a to-do text file. And what this is a nice just list of things you need to do. Like if you were to follow this point for point, you'd come out the other end with your package effectively. There's a lot of information in here, and there's also a lot of information in comments in the other files, which we'll have a look at in a second. But this does cover distribution rights in here as well. What to do if, say, your download link isn't publicly available. What to do if, say, for example, with the Chrome software, they have one download URL for their installer, regardless of what version it is. So how do you handle that? Package types. There's a lot of information in here, and it's worth a read the first time you do a package. But we are going to start with I actually think it might be better if we start with the install script. And yes, I'm doing this in Notepad++. So I'm not going to have any nice tab completion. So like I said, there's a lot of comments in here that they're very helpful. They point at that, well, it will discuss the different Chocolatey helper commands or helper functions that are available to you. So by default, this one uses the install Chocolatey package helper. And through that, you tell it where to download your software from, how to install it, etc. And then this document covers when you might want to use install Chocolatey zip package instead, or install Chocolatey install package, and links to all the documentation, so you can go off and get the um, get the full help on each of those functions. Yes, and there's the docs for them as well.
Yeah, we've got a lot of helper
There's a lot.
functions that are available.
So you'll see most of this document is comments, because there's a lot of different scenarios that you might want to cover. Like you might want to know whether you're installing on a 32-bit OS or a 64-bit OS. There's just a lot in here that can be very helpful depending on what you're trying to do. The only thing to be aware of is when you are pushing this through to the community repository, you don't want all of those comments still in there. So we do include a little snippet of PowerShell up there that just removes all the comments for you. Oh, excuse me. So we'll just step through this file. Luckily, the installer that we're dealing with is a fairly standard one, so it's not. We're not going to have to get too. We're not going to have to wrangle it too much. One thing, so we always start with error action stop. That means if anything goes wrong, the install is going to report back that it failed. And the tools dir is just basically the location where the packages, the tools directory inside the package. And I don't believe we have one for, yes, we do. That's literally where we're at. So, sorry, this tools dir variable ends up pointing to this folder inside the package. Now, the first thing we're going to need is the URL to download from. And I believe, if I remember right, this is a 64-bit only installer. There we go.
There it is.
I've never had to click the show more on that before. There we go. So I'll copy that link. And what I'm going to do is, for this one, because it's a 64-bit only installer, I'm going to pop it into into URL 64. So that's that's telling it this is the place to download the 64-bit installer. And I don't have a 32-bit installer, so I don't have a straight URL to fill out here.
Yeah, and this is kind of up to whatever you want to do for this, right? Because there's only a single installer here. You could just use URL if you wanted to. There's really no right or wrong answer in this particular case, but it is a little bit clearer, since this is a 64-bit installer, to use URL 64.
Yeah, and if you had both, you can fill out both. And the convention is, if you've got one installer that can dynamically install 32-bit or 64-bit, put that under URL.
Correct.
So we don't need that, so I'll clean that up. So package name is just out of the box, is the environment variable that's automatically set when installing or upgrading your package. Just is the package name. Do we need an unzip location for this? Given,
I believe it's a mandatory parameter.
Okay.
I
Well,
always
there's
leave
no
it. It,
harm.
it either
There's no
gets
harm leaving
used
it
or it
in.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That it's fine.
Okay. Now we tell it the file type we're dealing with, which is an MSI. I got rid of URL above, so I'll get rid of it there. Now, if you were embedding the installer inside the package, rather than specifying a URL, you would point to the file. So that's there just for easily switching to that style of install. Then we've got the software name. This helps for finding it in programs and features for doing the uninstall, and I think some pro features may use it as well.
Yeah.
But that there happens to be exactly what it needs to be. So that came in as part of the template. So I'll leave that as is. And then we need a checksum. So effectively, the checksum is a representation of the installer file that's a string of letters and numbers that uniquely identify that file. So if anything were to change in that file, the checksum changes, and then we would know something's happened. Or the installer isn't what we expect it to be, so we probably shouldn't do the install. And again, I've only got the 64-bit one, so I will get rid of the two 32-bit versions, and we'll go with 64. So, do you know if it's possible to get the hash directly from GitHub offhand?
No, I don't think it is unless they
No.
publish it
Yeah,
as part of the release assets.
and I
You
don't
might
think
be able to get it. It would be hard to get it. It's probably there if you were to
it'll be on
use
the
the
API or
API.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. If you were to use the release endpoint of the API, you could probably get at it. But
so instead of so what we were saying there is sometimes you might see the hash on this page, but because we don't, we've downloaded the installer, and I'll use the get file hash PowerShell command to hash that to get the hash from that installer. And I want a SHA-256. So like I say, this is the representation for that file in a SHA-256 hash. So there are other options in there. There's, say, MD5. There's SHA-512, which is a lot longer. The thing is, you just need to... Oh, did I actually copy that? So you need the hash, and then you need to tell it what type of hash that is, because otherwise, if we'd taken, say, an MD5 hash and it tried to validate it as a SHA-256, it wouldn't match, and that it would stop the install at that point. So I use the PowerShell command. There is also the instructions here on how to use checksum.exe, which is a tool that you can install via Chocolatey as well. Okay. So we are doing an MSI install, so this default is perfect for us. The silent arguments here that have been listed are going to work for our installer. It also includes by default some logging, which is very handy for troubleshooting install issues if you happen to run into them. And
those are verbose MSI logs as well.
yes,
Just to warn everybody, if you are going to need to use those MSI logs, the verbose ones are very, very chatty. But if you're troubleshooting an MSI installer, you're probably going to like the fact that the default is verbosity, because
Yes.
it can be sometimes very, very hard to
So
identify what's going on.
yeah. So when I work on a new package, I tend to leave that logging on and
Mm-hmm.
and potentially turn it down after the fact or turn it off, whichever, as the maintainer, is sort of your prerogative, I guess. And then there's valid exit codes. This is just telling Chocolatey what exit codes it could receive from the installer to tell it that the install was successful. Most of the time, you're going to see an exit code of 0, I would expect.
It's not very often you see a 3010 or a 1641.
No. But given they can happen, I tend to leave them in there.
Yeah.
If there's a genuine error, it's going to be something other than one of those three. So, then if you're excuse me, then if your installer's an exe, then there's a bunch of potential silent args that it could require based on the type of installer that it is. Do you know the best way to figure out, Stephen, what type of installer an exe is?
The best way,
Or easiest way?
the easiest way, typically for me, and it doesn't always work because it depends on the installer whether it works or not. But if you run the installer with like /?mark or /h or some permutation of that, typically it will pop up a dialog box with the options that are available to pass to the
Yeah.
executable. And some of the installers highlight what they are. Like for an MSI, and you do /?mark, it pops up the MSI options. That's a pretty good indication that that's an MSI because it
Yeah.
says it's Windows installer, right?
Yes.
I think NO Setup does it. I know Install Shield does, but it's kind of up to the installer whether it identifies itself or not. But to help you identify what your options are, using /?mark or /h
It
or
should at
some
least tell
permutation of
you.
that, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
at least get you to what you need, or at least
Yeah.
closer to what you need.
You should be
And
able to
hopefully the
match
vendor
that output
docs.
to this list, at least, in theory. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And hopefully the vendor docs are helpful as well, if this isn't.
So I know there's a command up top to get rid of these, but I'm just going to do these ones because I want to just mention. So what we've done here as part of the template is, from a PowerShell perspective, all of this information is now in a hash table called package arguments. And what we're doing is passing all of that into our Chocolatey helper command via a method called splatting. Sorry. And so you'll notice the way you can identify splatting is, other than knowing that that's a hash table up there, when you reference this variable, it's now got a at symbol at the front of it instead of a $sign. And I do always get a kick out of the fact that it is called splatting, but that's what it is. So the alternative there is, if you weren't using splatting, then you would end up with a really long command that's like dash package name.
Yeah.
That. So this would end up, especially with things like checksums and your silent args that are quite long, this will be scrolling off the screen forever.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I determine whether I'm going to use splatting or not. If I have to scroll left and right to see all the parameters on my command, I'm going to splat them instead for readability. Because
And
you can go up and down a lot easier than you can go left and right.
yeah. And when you're doing a package, I would say just do what the template did and splat
Yeah,
it, because
exactly.
one or two of these variables and you're going to be off the screen.
Yep.
And you need all of them, basically. So that's effectively, for us, a working package. A working install script. So all the rest of this is stuff like, do you need to set up environment variables? Do you need to install shortcuts? Do you need to download additional files? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of information in each one of these scripts. The template
Yes.
gives you a lot to help you as much as we can within the file without having to go to too many websites to figure out what's going on. And where appropriate, we do give you the link to the documentation inside of the file.
Yes. This is my install script. So if I do that right, hey, there we go.
Here we go.
And that, just clean up all those empty lines because I can't leave them. So that's our completed install script. So because we're downloading our installer from the internet, I know I don't need my license or verification text files, so I'll get rid of those now. I've already read my to-do, and I don't need the README for this. Actually, what's in the README by default? Oh, good. More.
A lot of
A lot
information.
more. Actually, this goes into automatic packages and all sorts, which is one thing that we won't touch here. But if you're packaging something that does release on GitHub, it makes creating automatic updates to those packages quite handy, which we may look at in a future stream potentially.
Yeah, if you're going to check your package and source into source code, and then if this was something that's ultimately going to go up onto community.chocolatey.org, that README can be repurposed, right? You don't have to keep all that information in there. You can use that README as the README for the repository for the packaging as well.
Yes.
So you don't really have to change anything there. It's all laid out for you.
So this is the new spec, which contains all the metadata about the package. And again, there's a lot of awesome information in here with links off to our documentation for even more information. So you can, if you don't find the answer to something you're looking for in these comments themselves, you'll definitely find them over on the docs site, which we link to quite frequently. So I'm actually going to try something really quick. Just to see what I'm hoping. There we go. So I don't know if we've actually, one of the recent blog posts was about our community validation extension, which a colleague of ours, Kim, has released. What it does is, if you try and pack it, what it does is it surfaces all the best practices that your package needs to hit. A lot of them that they need to hit if you were to push them through to the community repository. It surfaces those checks a lot sooner. So here, I've jumped the gun a bit. I've tried to package up my Chocolatey package, and it's come back saying, you need to sort this stuff out first. So it hasn't even at this point generated the package for me because I need to satisfy these issues first. And I'm not sure if someone can or already has drop a link to that blog post in chat, but go and read that if you want to find out more information about the extension and how to use it. There we go. Awesome. Thank you. So we need to start filling out this metadata, which is effectively what most of this stuff is saying is, hey, you need to replace this, the templated stuff. So we'll just go down the list. It's already populated the ID for my package because I told what the ID was when I did the Choco new command. Then I need to give it a version number. So we are doing 0.4.0. So I'll pop that in. The title, I won't bother copying and pasting that. That seems a bit. There we go. Now, by default, it's put in install there. You might want to. There's different ways of dropping software onto a system. So you could install it. You could do a portable. You could have portable software, which is basically just take this executable, put it in a folder, and it'll run from there. You don't need to install it. So if you had the same software with multiple ways of getting it onto a system, you might want to distinguish that in the title of your package. So you say install, portable, whatever. For this, there's only one way to do it that we're doing, so I'm just going to call it Elk Native. The authors, so this is a community or a group of people that work on this, and they refer to themselves as Elk Native contributors. So that's what I'm going to put in as the authors. So if it was a solo developer, I'd call them out by name. But with this being a community thing, we'll attribute the software to all of them. Yeah. Project URL, that is just the GitHub repository. We will uncomment some of these things before we package it. I'm just going through the stuff that's uncommented first. Tags. So this is a space separated list of words or very, very, very short phrases that can help find your package on the community feed or whatever feed you happen to push your package to. So I'm going to go with elk mastodon, I think. I
think that's right.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if it's an existing one, but social for social media. I would probably go and look at some other clients and see what they're using. But you want enough there to help with discoverability without overdoing it. I think 10's probably the maximum you should put in there. Yeah, don't overdo it. Then we need a summary. So I'm just going to take the first line of their description from GitHub. So it's a native version of Elk, Nimble Mastodon web client. Cool. And we need a description. Not that one. That one. So I don't think there's actually any more.
Yeah, I don't think I would do too much. What I might do is switch that README to the Markdown view so that you can grab the image as well.
Oh,
That
good
might look
call.
kind of neat.
Um, so
Do you have to go into the actual README itself?
oh,
Where is the README? There it is.
alphabetical order, but also case sensitive. So
What client? Yeah, I would start just a little bit above where your mouse is and capture just that little bit there. Elk Native is even more.
does it support HTTP image?
It's uh well, I'm not sure if it supports HTTP stuff, but
It's
it'll definitely support like the 4 lines down from where you're at now.
yes.
Those Yeah, and then keep going until you get past the
Get those
screenshots.
screenshots.
Yeah, and grab all that, and that's what I would use.
So, so used to having more than one screen. Um, so we're going to pop this in here.
Pop this up on. That's good. It is Markdown only, not
Yeah.
no HTML inside of that tag, which
So
makes sense.
what I won't. So I'll leave it at that then. What I was considering is putting the elk logo like they have, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling that logo is quite big. So if we do it via Markdown, it's going to sort of be a giant banner across the
Yeah.
across the page. So we'll leave it. So that's the description. One thing, the description needs to be descriptive, but can't be too long. I think the maximum length is about 4,000
4,000.
characters.
Yeah, 4,000 characters.
And that is one of the checks that this will do for you. And
Well, that's a good shout, Gary.
Yes.
Those are not the screenshot links are references
yes,
to
thank
files
you, Gary.
within
That
the
is a good
repository.
catch.
Yeah. Yeah, so you'd need the raw URLs of the images themselves.
Is it just me? Oh, there's one for dark mode and one for light. Interesting. Okay, well, we won't do both of them. Copy image link. That looks better. So what's that other one? There was a light mode. I might just link to just the one.
I bet if GitHub's in light mode, it switches to the light mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just use one. For our purposes, one is fine.
Yes. Okay. So if I save that now, and I run Chocopack again.
And you're cheating here a little bit. You're running Chocoback without specifying the new spec directly because Chocopack will look in the current directory and find any new specs and pack them. So if you had more than one new spec in here,
yes, it would.
Potentially it would pack more than one thing.
And I think my doing that is just a illustration of habit from how I generally work, which is one package per directory.
Yeah, that's how I do it too.
And then the end result there is that I've got a NUPKG file, which is the package. This is the thing that I would push to the community repository. I am going to make some final changes first, though. No, in the interest of time, I'll make the changes later. I'll talk through them really quickly now. So some things I wanted to point out in here was the icon URL. The generally what you would do is you would put the source for your package up on GitHub, and then host a copy of the software's logo alongside it. And then on the community repository, we would ask you to go through a CDN to reference that icon. So like GitHack, JS
Like
Deliver, I think.
JS Deliver is the one I use. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you put that in the icon URL. So don't reference it directly from GitHub. It needs to go through a CDN, which is Content Delivery Network. It just takes the load off of the original source. And
It'll
if it's
keep
not on
GitHub
GitHub,
happy.
yes. And if it's not on GitHub, it really needs to be a website that you control effectively. Don't go and point it at someone else's website, and that's not GitHub. And actually, I will do one thing, which is put the copyright in, because they have that down the bottom here.
2022.
Yeah, they've got the I don't want to keep updating this every year copyright notice on there.
Smart.
And then you can point to, because I can't help but not do it. Because they've got a license, I will point to that as well. Now, if at the moment the project URL is pointing to a GitHub, their GitHub repo, that could be a fancy, like a actual website that advertises the software. If that was the case and it was an open source project, you would fill out the source URL, and then that would point to the GitHub, and the other one would point to, say, elk.com or whatever their homepage is. If they had a doc site, you could put that in, mailing lists, bug trackers, all that sort of thing as well. What I'm missing from here, yes, and package source URL. So if you hosted the source of your package, not the software, but the package on GitHub or some other code repository, you could link to that here, which then helps other people, if there's a bug, help you fix that bug.
Yeah. And that's something that's required if you're going to upload it to the community feed. You have to point to your source for the package.
So we've got our new spec. There's a couple of things I want to validate, which is one, I want to test if the automatic uninstaller can uninstall my package, and I need to know if I need to do anything with my before modify. Luckily, this is really quick to figure out. Before modify already doesn't have anything in it, and there is boilerplate in the uninstall script, which will work 9 times out of 10 for people. You just need to tell it MSI. There, I believe that's really the only thing. Yes.
Yeah, that's the only thing you have to touch there.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to see if Chocolatey itself can handle that uninstall without needing the script. So again, we'll pack it. And that's created that new spec file for me. Back here. Sorry, new spec. Nupkig. And let's go and try and install it. Which is probably the very first thing you should check after packing it before looking to push it anywhere, is actually check that it works. So we're dealing with Elk native. And so if I were to just type that, it would go off to the community repository and try and install it from there. Obviously, it doesn't exist up there yet. So I'm going to tell it to look in the current directory instead. And I have, obviously, because I follow good practice, I'm not in a admin terminal. So let's get that sorted. Choco, elk, native. So what this is saying is, hey, you're about to run a script. Do you want to run it? From here, we could type P and it would print out the contents. We've already seen it. And hopefully I trust what I wrote myself. So I'll say Y. As it says there in the green, there are ways to confirm that without from the original command. So there we can see it downloaded the file, it went and installed it. So in theory, we now have elk. So there we go. We've got our Mastodon client. Obviously not signed in or anything because it's just recently been installed. But now what I want to see is, can I uninstall it? And can I uninstall it while it's running? Because otherwise I'll need the before modify, and if it doesn't uninstall, I need the uninstall script. So Choco uninstall, elk native. It's installed now, so I don't need to tell it where the source is because it is on my machine. So I go uninstall, and so what this is telling me is it's going to run that before modify script that I left in the package. Remember, it's empty, so it's not actually doing anything. So I'll say yes. And then, so it's running the auto uninstaller, and it's done. So it closed the app. It's now uninstalled. It's disappeared from here. So that means the auto uninstaller works, and I don't need a before modify script. So what I would do from here, because we don't have time to cover it, is just some final cleanup. I would clean up that new spec, add any final information. I would get rid of that before modify script. And then from there, I'd push it to the repository and to my GitHub repo. And that's likely to happen probably within the hour after our live stream's done today.
Awesome.
So I'll turn off that.
Fantastic. All right, I'm just going to pop up a couple of things here. I want to thank everybody for coming. We've got a couple of surveys that we would like you to take a look at if you've got time. The first one I just popped up on the screen here is our stream survey. That's the survey about all of these live streams that you're seeing, such as this one today. Real quick, if you could share with us what you'd like to see out of these live streams in the future, that'll really, really help us plan for things as we go along. And then the other one that we're running right now, it is a bigger survey that encompasses a lot more things about Chocolatey, including the products itself and the features that are contained in there. And with that survey, we're giving away some goodies, right? We're giving away some chocolatey swag to a couple of lucky winners there. So if you'd like a chance at that swag and you would like a chance to provide some feedback about chocolatey itself, we'd really like it if you could take a couple of minutes for that one and take that survey. If you would like to be notified of things happening, you'd like to get involved, we would love to see you on Discord. You can go to chocolatey.org, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom, all of the links to our various social media are there, including a link that will take you to our Discord server. We'd love to see you join and hang out with us on Discord. And our next live stream is going to be our brand new Unpacking Software live stream. And the next episode of that is the 21st of March, which is the third Thursday at 5 p.m. UTC, which is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard. So if you want to come hang out and listen to us talk about all the latest and greatest of what's going on in tech. Uh, that'll be on the 21st of March, and we hope you'll be able to join us. That one's really fun. I like that one. It's a new format that we're trying out, and I think it's really really enjoyable. So we hope to see you there, and thanks for your time today, folks. Enjoy.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.